If you are an American and you are thinking about dating a Turkish woman, stop for a moment. Because what you imagine as a romantic adventure filled with exotic beauty, rich traditions, and endless charm may quickly become one of the most challenging, complicated experiences of your life. Welcome to Cultural Clashes, the channel where we dive deep into what really happens when love crosses borders. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe, drop your comment and share this video, because after this story, you'll want to tell us, could you handle dating a Turkish woman? At first glance, Turkish women are magnetic. They are elegant, proud, family-oriented and full of passion. Their culture is a blend of East and West, tradition and modernity, faith and freedom. To an American man, meeting a Turkish woman can feel like stepping into an irresistible mix of beauty, loyalty, and mystery. But beneath that charm lies a culture shaped by religion, history, and social expectations that can collide hard with American values of independence, equality, and freedom. Let's imagine a couple. David, a 33-year-old American from Chicago, meets Aylin, a 26-year-old Turkish woman from Istanbul. Their first encounter is magical. David is fascinated by her confidence, her elegance, and her intelligence. Aylin is charmed by his openness, his humor, and his easy American style. From the very beginning, their chemistry is undeniable. At first, every conversation feels exciting, every glance feels electric. But soon, the cultural divide begins to show. The first clash comes from family involvement. In America, relationships are often private, a matter between two people. In Turkey, family plays a central role. Aylin's parents expect respect, involvement, and consideration in almost every step of her love life. Cousins, aunts, uncles, and even neighbors have opinions. David enjoys the warmth at first, but soon he feels overwhelmed. He wants weekends away with Aylin, private dinners, and independence. She insists that family comes first. For her, love without family is meaningless. For him, love should be intimate. What she calls loyalty, he calls intrusion. Religion is another challenge. While Turkey is officially secular, Islam remains deeply woven into daily life. Aylin expects David to respect her faith, avoiding alcohol in front of her family, respecting prayer times, and honoring religious holidays like Ramadan. David, who grew up in a secular household, finds these expectations heavy. When he orders a drink at dinner, she frowns. When he forgets about fasting, she feels disappointed. For her, faith is identity. For him, faith is optional. His casualness feels like disrespect. Her devotion feels like control. Gender roles create another battlefield. Turkish culture carries a mix of modern and traditional expectations. Aylin is educated, independent, and ambitious, but she also expects her man to lead, protect, and provide. When David suggests splitting bills, she is offended. For her, a man shows his seriousness through financial stability and generosity. For him, equality shows respect. What he calls fairness, she calls weakness. What she calls love, he calls obligation. Jealousy takes on a different meaning. Aylin expects David to be protective, to care if other men look at her, and to set clear boundaries. In her culture, jealousy is often seen as devotion, not insecurity. David, who grew up believing trust means freedom, remains calm. He doesn't get jealous easily. Aylin interprets this as lack of passion. The more relaxed he is, the more she feels unloved. The more she demands intensity, the more he feels suffocated. Social norms add more weight. In Turkey, appearances matter. How you behave in public, how you treat elders, how you dress, it all reflects on family honor. Aylin expects David to be respectful, serious, and mindful of these norms. David, who is used to casual clothes, sarcasm, and relaxed manners, sometimes embarrasses her. What he calls authenticity, she calls shame. What she calls respect, he calls rigidity. Politics and history become sensitive topics. Turkey is a nation caught between East and West, with a complicated history of pride, nationalism, and political tension. Aylin takes these matters seriously. David, however, cracks casual jokes about politics or asks blunt questions about the government. She feels offended. For her, these are not just debates. They are identity and survival. For him, politics is conversation. His casual tone feels ignorant. Her sensitivity feels exaggerated. Marriage expectations appear early. Aylin's family does not see long-term casual dating as acceptable. If David is serious, he must show it. Talk of engagement comes faster than he expects. He feels pressured. She feels disrespected when he delays. For her, love without commitment is meaningless. For him, rushing feels dangerous. Family honor weighs heavily. Every choice Aylin makes reflects on her family. If she goes out late, if she dresses a certain way, if she dates an outsider, it all affects their reputation. David struggles to understand. In his culture, individuals live for themselves. In hers, every move is collective. His freedom feels selfish to her. Her loyalty feels suffocating to him. Daily life highlights their differences. Aylin is organized, frugal, and mindful. She values tradition in food, home, and rituals. David is casual, wastes food, and spends freely. She sees irresponsibility where he sees nothing wrong. He laughs it off. She grows frustrated. Even communication styles clash. Aylin is direct, emotional, and expressive. When she is upset, she argues passionately. For her, fighting means caring. David prefers calm, logical conversations. His calmness makes her feel ignored. Her fire makes him feel attacked. As weeks pass, the tension grows. David feels suffocated by expectations, family involvement, religious traditions, and social rules. Aylin feels neglected by his independence, his casualness, and his lack of seriousness. What once felt like attraction now feels like conflict. This is why so many Americans are shocked when dating Turks. At first, the beauty, the warmth, and the charm feel irresistible. But soon they discover that Turkish love is not casual. It is demanding, tied to family, faith, and tradition. Love in Turkey is not light. It is heavy, consuming, and full of duty, and this is only the beginning. Because as the relationship deepens, the weight of family honor, religious expectations, and cultural pride only grows stronger. What once felt like magic begins to reveal itself as a cultural storm waiting to explode. Stay tuned, because in the next part, we will explore how these clashes escalate when Americans and Turkish women try to build a future together, and why many of these romances collapse under the weight of tradition and expectation. As David and Aylin's relationship continues, what once seemed exciting begins to weigh on both of them. The sparks that first drew them together are now buried under expectations, traditions, and obligations neither can fully escape. David still admires Aylin's elegance, her loyalty, and her fire, but he feels trapped inside a system of rules he never agreed to. Aylin still values David's optimism and kindness, but she feels constantly let down by his casualness and his lack of devotion to her world. The first point of collapse is marriage and family approval. Aylin's parents press for clarity. If David is serious, he must propose. They want to know about his faith, his finances, and his long-term intentions. They expect not just words, but action, gestures, and commitment. Aylin insists that if David truly loves her, he will honor her family. David feels cornered. He argues that marriage should be their choice, not her parents'. For him, love is private. For her, love without family blessing is impossible. Every refusal he makes feels like rejection, not only of her family, but of her identity. Religion and faith grow into a wall between them. Aylin asks David to respect fasting during Ramadan, to avoid alcohol around her family, and to learn about her traditions. At first he tries, but over time he grows tired of bending. When he breaks the fast with a meal at the wrong time or has a drink at a party, she feels humiliated. Her family whispers, judging his disrespect. David argues that he's just being himself. Aylin sees him as careless. For her, religion is not just personal, it's community. For him, religion is optional. Neither can meet in the middle. Jealousy and possessiveness intensify. Aylin becomes more demanding, asking David to avoid female friends, to prove his devotion through boundaries. She wants him to show passion by protecting her. David insists that trust should be enough, but Aylin feels unsafe with his relaxed attitude. She begins to suspect that his freedom means indifference. He feels suffocated by her constant demands. She feels neglected by his lack of intensity. What she calls love, he calls control. What he calls trust, she calls weakness. Family obligations expand. When Aylin's parents need help, she expects David to contribute. When her brother faces financial trouble, she hints that David should step in. In her world, a man proves his worth not only to the woman, but to her entire family. For David, this is shocking. He believes responsibility ends with the couple. For her, refusing family obligations is shameful. He feels used. She feels abandoned. Cultural pride causes more fights. Aylin is proud of being Turkish. She wants their future children to embrace her culture, her language, and her traditions. David imagines raising children with freedom, allowing them to choose their own identity. Aylin is horrified. For her, raising children without Turkish culture is betrayal. For him, forcing culture is oppression. Neither will bend, even daily life becomes unbearable. Aylin wants order, structure, and respect for tradition in their home. David is casual, messy, and relaxed. He throws on shorts to meet her family, cracks jokes at formal dinners, and forgets rituals. She feels embarrassed. He feels attacked. What she calls respect, he calls suffocation. What he calls comfort, she calls shame. Social life also breaks them. Aylin expects David to participate in family gatherings, ceremonies, and community events. For her, community is joy. For him, it is obligation. He wants privacy, weekends away, and time alone. She feels he is rejecting her roots. He feels she is draining his freedom. As months go by, the arguments become constant. Aylin accuses David of being unserious, careless, and disrespectful. David accuses Aylin of being controlling, demanding, and rigid. Both feel betrayed. Both feel unloved. This is the reality many Americans face when dating Turks. At first, the beauty, the charm, and the passion feel irresistible. But soon, Americans discover that Turkish love is tied to family honor, faith, and tradition. It is not light or casual. It is heavy, demanding, and consuming. Americans see love as freedom, equality, and independence. Turks see love as duty, loyalty, and respect. Both perspectives are valid, but together they clash. Does this mean it's impossible? Not entirely. Some couples succeed. Some Americans embrace Turkish traditions fully, adapting to family obligations, religious practices, and cultural pride. Some Turks compromise, accepting independence, freedom, and individuality. But these cases demand sacrifice so great that most are not willing to make it. Most relationships collapse, not because of lack of love, but because love alone cannot overcome history, faith, and family honor. So, should Americans date Turks? Only if they are ready to give up independence for obligation, casualness for devotion, and privacy for family involvement. Only if they are ready to accept that love is not just between two people, but a bond between families, faiths, and entire worlds, because dating a Turkish woman is not just romance. It is stepping into a culture where love is honor, tradition, and duty above all else. Unless you are ready to live inside that world, maybe you should think twice before stepping into it. So, what do you think? Would you survive dating a Turkish woman? Or would the jealousy, the family pressure, and the cultural expectations crush you before love could last? Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to Cultural Clashes, and spread this story. Because when cultures collide, love is never simple. It is always a battlefield between worlds.